All right, so are you ready to like really go deeper into Buddhism?
Always ready.
We've done some dives before, sure.
Right.
But this time it's different, right? We get this whole stack of sources all about the different like schools that have developed over time.
Okay.
It's like Buddhism itself went on a journey.
Okay, yeah.
And we get to trace its path.
That's a great way to put it.
Right.
Buddhism has been around for over 2,500 years.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, it's had plenty of time to branch out, adapt to different cultures and philosophies.
You think a religion that's all about like finding peace would be peaceful?
You'd think so, yeah.
In how unified it is?
Yeah.
But nope, not at all.
Not quite.
So we're going to tackle how Theravada, Mahayana, and Vajrayana each see the path to enlightenment a little differently.
It's important to remember that the core goal, ending suffering, is the same.
Okay, so that's the same.
But the how is where things get really interesting.
Okay.
Like imagine 3 people trying to climb the same mountain.
Okay.
One might take a slow and steady trail.
Okay.
Another a daring rock climb. And the third might even try to fly.
Okay, that's an image I won't forget.
Good.
So let's start with that slow and steady path.
Right.
What's the deal with Theravada Buddhism?
Well, Theravada is often considered the oldest surviving school.
Okay.
They really emphasize sticking close to the original teachings of the Buddha as found in the Pali Canon. Their collection of ancient scriptures.
So they're like the purists.
Exactly.
Going back to the source code.
Yeah. For them, enlightenment is about gaining wisdom.
Okay.
And becoming an arhat.
An arhat.
Someone who has achieved nirvana through their own efforts. They often use the image of a small raft.
A small raft.
Carrying the individual across the river of suffering to liberation.
Okay, so it's a very like self-reliant path.
It is. It is.
Focus on personal transformation.
Yeah.
But then we have Mahayana Buddhism.
Right.
Which seems to take a more expansive approach.
Absolutely. If Theravada is the small raft, Mahayana is like a giant ferry.
A giant
aiming to transport everyone across the river of suffering.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So it's not just about your own enlightenment, but helping all beings achieve it.
Precisely.
Okay.
And this is where the bodhisattva ideal comes in.
The bodhisattva.
A bodhisattva is someone who could reach nirvana, but chooses to stay behind and help others.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's dedication.
They embody compassion and selflessness on a cosmic scale.
Our sources mention a story called the flower sermon.
Okay, yeah.
Where the Buddha holds up a flower, right?
Right.
And only one student, Mahakasyapa, gets it and smiles.
Smiles.
It's like enlightenment can't always be put into words.
Exactly. Right. Mahayana Buddhism places a lot of emphasis on direct experience. Okay.
And intuition.
Okay.
One of the most well-known branches within Mahayana is Zen Buddhism.
Zen Buddhism.
Which really leans into the...
Oh, yeah, Zen. Everyone's heard of it.
Everyone's heard of it. But I admit, I don't fully get it.
Yeah.
It's all about meditation and those weird riddles.
Like it's more than just weird riddles.
Okay.
Those are definitely part of it.
Okay.
They're called koans.
Koans. Okay.
And they're designed to break down your logical mind and help you experience reality directly.
Like that classic one.
Yeah.
What is the sound of one hand clapping?
Yes. It's meant to make you realize that our usual way of thinking, with all its labels and categories, can actually block us from truly experiencing the world.
Okay. I'm starting to see how that ties into the flower sermon story.
Right.
Both point to a kind of wisdom that goes beyond words and concepts.
Exactly. Zen calls this experience of unfiltered awareness sunyata.
Sunyata.
Which is often translated as emptiness.
Okay.
But it's not about things not existing.
Right.
It's more about recognizing that things don't have inherent fixed meanings.
Okay.
Those meanings are something we impose on them.
So it's about seeing through the illusions we create in our own minds.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And this insight can be incredibly liberating.
Okay.
Because it helps us detach from our rigid ideas about how things should be.
Okay.
It's like suddenly realizing that the map you've been using is totally wrong.
And then you're free to explore the territory with fresh eyes.
Exactly.
That actually makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
But how do these koans actually work?
Right.
I mean, how does a riddle lead to this profound shift in perspective?
Well, think about it this way.
Okay.
Our minds love to solve problems, to categorize things, to find answers. But koans are designed to be unsolvable.
Unsolvable.
Through logic alone. They force you to confront the limits of your thinking.
So it's like hitting a mental brick wall.
In a way, yes.
Okay.
And when you hit that wall hard enough, sometimes something breaks through.
Okay.
You experience a flash of insight.
Okay.
A sudden shift in perspective.
Okay.
That Zen calls satori.
Satori. Okay.
It sounds like a bit of a roller coaster ride for the mind.
It can be.
But the goal isn't just to have a cool experience.
All right.
It's about using these insights to transform your way of being in the world.
Okay.
To cultivate greater peace, compassion, and wisdom.
So we've got Theravada.
Okay.
Focused on individual enlightenment.
Right.
Through wisdom and discipline.
Uh-huh.
And Mahayana.
Yes.
Which emphasizes compassion and helping all beings.
Right.
Where does Vajrayana fit into all of this?
But Vajrayana, often called Tibetan Buddhism.
Tibetan Buddhism, okay.
Is sometimes seen as the most esoteric of the three.
Okay.
It draws upon indigenous Tibetan traditions like Bunj, and it incorporates practices that might seem a little out there.
Out there, okay.
Are people unfamiliar with them?
Our sources mention things like rituals, mantras, visualizations, working with energy centers in the body.
It can be.
It all seems very mysterious.
But at its core, Vajrayana is about using all aspects of your being, body, speech, and mind, to accelerate the path to enlightenment.
So instead of seeing those things as distractions, they're actually tools for transformation.
Exactly.
Okay.
Vajrayana sees the potential for enlightenment in everything.
In everything, wow.
Even in things we might normally consider negative or taboo.
Okay.
It's about harnessing energy rather than suppressing or rejecting it.
I'm getting the sense that Vajrayana is not for the faint of heart.
It can be quite intense.
Okay.
But like all Buddhist traditions,
it
ultimately aims to alleviate suffering and help us realize our full potential.
So we've got these three major branches, Theravada, Mahayana, and Vajrayana.
Right.
Each with its own unique approach to the path of enlightenment.
Right.
But how did Buddhism itself spread and evolve as it moved across cultures?
Yeah.
Our sources mention that things got particularly interesting in China.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
When Mahayana Buddhism arrived in China, it didn't just arrive as a set of doctrines.
Okay.
It encountered a vibrant tapestry of existing beliefs and practices.
Okay.
And it began to weave itself into that tapestry.
So it wasn't just a one-way transmission,
That's right.
But a kind of cultural exchange.
Exactly.
Okay.
And this led to the development of distinctly Chinese forms of Buddhism. Blending Mahayana teachings with elements of Taoism.
Taoism, okay.
Confucianism and folk religion.
For example.
Yeah, well.
Our sources mention a few things that stand out.
One striking example is the use of incense.
Incense, okay.
While incense is used in many Buddhist traditions, it took on a particular significance in China.
Okay.
Connecting with ancient beliefs about purification.
Okay.
And creating a sacred atmosphere.
And then there are the elaborate altars you often see in Chinese Buddhist temples.
Right.
Laden with offerings of food, flowers, and incense.
Right.
It's like a visual feast.
It's about expressing gratitude and making offerings to the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas.
Okay.
It's a way of creating a connection between the mundane and the sacred.
Okay.
Bringing the teachings into everyday life.
And speaking of bringing things into everyday life, we can't forget about Buddhai.
Buddhai, right.
The laughing Buddha.
Ah, yes, Buddhai.
Right.
The jolly figure with the big belly and infectious smile.
Yeah, he's great.
He's a distinctly Chinese figure
who
embodies joy, generosity, and contentment.
So he's become a symbol of good luck and prosperity.
Yeah, yeah.
And he's a reminder that enlightenment isn't about being serious and austere all the time.
Right.
It's about finding true happiness and freedom from suffering.
Exactly.
I love that. He's a great ambassador for Buddhism.
Yeah.
Reminding us that it's not just about sitting in silent meditation.
Right.
It's about cultivating joy and living a full, compassionate life.
And Buddha's popularity reflects how Buddhism in China embraced and celebrated those aspects of life.
This is also fascinating.
It is.
We've gone from the small raft of Theravada to the giant ferry of Mahayana, and then to the rocket ship of Vajrayana.
Rocket ship, sure.
And now we've seen how Buddhism blended with Chinese culture to create something entirely new.
It's remarkable, isn't it?
It is.
And we've only just scratched the surface.
Oh, really?
There's so much more to explore.
A good thing this is a deep dive, right?
Exactly.
Ready to go deeper into each of these branches and really unpack what makes them unique?
Absolutely. Let's see what other treasures we can uncover.
Okay. Oh. All right. Welcome back. I feel like we just took a whirlwind tour of the Buddhist world.
Yeah.
And I'm ready to settle in and really explore some of these ideas in more depth.
Okay. Yeah, me too.
It's one thing to get an overview.
Right.
But the real magic happens when we start to unpack the specifics.
Okay.
Where should we dive in? I'm still really intrigued by that Mahayana concept of sunyata.
Sunyata.
Or emptiness.
Right.
We touched on it earlier.
Yeah.
But I feel like there's so much more to explore there.
Absolutely.
Sunyata is one of the most profound and often misunderstood concepts in Mahayana Buddhism.
It can seem kind of mind-bending.
Yeah.
But it's also incredibly liberating.
Okay.
Once you start to grasp it.
Because it's not about things literally not existing.
Right. Yeah.
It's more about seeing through the illusions we create in our own minds, the way we label and categorize things.
Yeah. And cling to fixed meanings.
Exactly. Think of it like this.
Okay.
Imagine you're looking at a rainbow.
Okay, a rainbow.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
Vibrant. It seems so real.
Yeah.
But if you try to grasp it, to hold on to it, you'll find that it's empty.
Empty. Okay.
It has no substance.
Okay.
Its existence depends on conditions.
Okay.
Like sunlight and water droplets.
So sunyata is about recognizing that all things are interconnected and impermanent.
Yeah.
And that the meanings we attach to them are ultimately projections of our own minds.
Precisely. And this insight can be incredibly freeing.
Okay.
Because it helps us loosen the grip of attachment.
Attachment, okay.
And aversion.
Okay.
We realize that the things we crave and cling to and the things we fear and push away are all ultimately empty of inherent fixed meaning.
So instead of getting caught up in the drama of our thoughts and emotions,
we can start to see them as passing phenomena.
Right.
Like clouds in the sky.
Exactly.
Okay.
And that allows us to cultivate a sense of equanimity.
Okay.
A piact of mind.
Yeah.
That's not dependent on external circumstances.
That's really powerful.
Yeah.
And this is where those Zen koans come in, right?
Absolutely.
They're like little tools for cracking open our rigid ways of thinking and experiencing this sunyata directly.
Koans are designed to short-circuit our logical minds and force us to confront the limits of language and concepts. Remember that one we mentioned earlier?
Yeah.
What is the sound of one hand clapping?
Yeah, it's like a mental puzzle.
Right.
That you can't solve
with
reason alone.
And by grappling with these seemingly nonsensical questions, we start to loosen the grip of our usual way of seeing things. We might experience a flash of insight.
Okay.
A sudden shift in perspective that Zen calls satori.
I can see how that could be a really disorienting, but also incredibly liberating experience.
It is.
Right.
It's like suddenly realizing that the world is much vaster and stranger than we thought it was.
And that's what makes sunyata so profound.
Yeah.
It's not just a philosophical concept.
Right.
It's a lived experience.
Yeah.
A way of seeing the world with fresh eyes, free from the limitations of our preconceived notions.
And this experience, this realization of sunyata is something that's cultivated through practice.
Right. It's not something you just read about and suddenly understand.
It takes time, effort, and skillful guidance.
So Zen Buddhism emphasizes meditation.
Yes.
Particularly a form of seated meditation called zazen.
Zazen, right.
As a way to cultivate this direct awareness.
Yes. It's about training the mind.
So it's like an athlete trains their body.
Yes. It's about developing concentration, mindfulness, and insight through regular practice. And as we cultivate these qualities, we start to see through the illusions of self and separation.
Okay.
And we experience a deeper sense of connection with all things.
That's beautiful. It's like we're all part of this vast interconnected web of life.
Yeah.
And sunyata helps us to see that more clearly.
Exactly.
It's about recognizing the interdependence of all things.
Yeah.
And this insight naturally leads to greater compassion.
Yeah.
Because we realize that we're not separate from others.
Right.
Their suffering is our suffering.
Right.
Their joy is our joy.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've delved into Mahayana and Zen Buddhism with their emphasis on compassion, emptiness, and kokians.
Right.
Now, what about Theravada Buddhism?
Theravada.
How do they approach the path to enlightenment?
Theravada, as we mentioned earlier, emphasizes the Pali Canon, which they believe contains the most authentic record of the Buddhist teachings. They place a strong emphasis on monasticism.
Monasticism,
and personal practice as the path to liberation.
So while Mahayana focuses on the bodhisattva ideal of helping all beings achieve enlightenment, Theravada is more about individual liberation through wisdom and discipline.
Yes.
Okay?
That's a good way to put it.
Theravada emphasizes the importance of studying the scriptures, practicing meditation, and living ethically as the way to cultivate wisdom and ultimately attain nirvana.
And what about mindfulness?
Mindfulness.
Right. We hear that word a lot these days.
You do, yeah.
And it seems to be connected to Buddhism, though not always explicitly.
Absolutely.
Mindfulness is at the heart of Theravada Buddhism. It's about paying attention to the present moment without judgment. Observing our thoughts, feelings, and sensations as they arise without getting swept away by them.
So it's not about emptying the mind or trying to stop thinking altogether.
Not at all.
But about becoming more aware of our thoughts and feelings and developing a sense of detachment from them.
Exactly. And this practice of mindfulness can be incredibly helpful in managing stress, anxiety, and even physical pain by simply observing our experiences without judgment. We create a space between ourselves and our reactions, allowing for greater clarity and peace of mind.
It sounds simple.
It does.
But I imagine it takes a lot of practice.
It does take practice.
To cultivate that kind of awareness. Our minds are so used to jumping around, dwelling on the past, worrying about the future.
It does take practice. But the benefits are well worth the effort. And the beauty of mindfulness is that it's something you can practice anytime, anywhere. You don't need any special equipment or rituals. You can simply bring your attention to the present moment, to the breath, to the sensations in your body, to the sounds around you.
So even though Theravada is considered the oldest school of Buddhism, it actually offers tools that are incredibly relevant to our modern lives.
Absolutely.
In a world that's increasingly fast-paced, demanding, and stressful. Mindfulness can be a lifeline, a way to find peace and clarity amidst the chaos.
Okay, so we've explored Mahayana and Theravada in more depth. Now, what about Vajrayana Buddhism?
Vajrayana,
The path that you described earlier as a rocket ship.
The rocket ship,
Yes. Vajrayana is often seen as the most esoteric and intense of the three branches. It draws upon ancient Tibetan traditions and incorporates practices that might seem a little mysterious or even intimidating to outsiders.
We talked about things like rituals, mantras, visualizations, and working with energy centers in the body, also known as chakras. Can we unpack some of that a little more?
Absolutely.
Vajrayana is all about harnessing energy and using it as a vehicle for spiritual transformation.
It's about engaging with all aspects of our being, body, speech, and mind, to accelerate the path to enlightenment.
So it's not about suppressing or rejecting our difficult emotions or experiences, but about actually working with them directly.
Precisely. Vajrayana sees the potential for enlightenment in everything.
Everything, wow.
Even in things we might normally consider negative or taboo. It's about transforming suffering into wisdom and compassion.
I'm starting to get a sense of why it's called the diamond vehicle.
The diamond vehicle.
Yeah, it's like cutting through illusions. Directly accessing the heart of reality. But how do these specific practices, like working with chakras and using mantras, actually help with that?
Well, let's take chakras as an example. Chakras are energy centers in the body. Each associated with certain qualities and aspects of our being.
I've heard of them. But I admit, I don't really understand how they work.
Vajrayana practitioners believe that these chakras can become blocked or imbalanced, leading to physical, emotional, and spiritual disharmony through practices like yoga, meditation, and visualization. They work to unblock and balance these energy centers, promoting greater health, well-being, and spiritual awakening.
So it's like a kind of energetic acupuncture, using specific techniques to stimulate and balance the flow of energy in the body.
That's a good way to think about it.
Okay.
And mantras, which are sacred sounds or syllables, are another powerful tool in Vajrayana practice.
I've heard people chanting mantras, but I've never really understood what they're doing.
Yeah.
Is it like a form of prayer?
It's not exactly prayer in the traditional sense.
Okay.
Mantras are believed to carry specific vibrations that can help to focus the mind, purify negative energies, and awaken spiritual potential.
So by chanting a mantra, you're not just repeating words, you're actually invoking a particular energy or quality.
Exactly.
Okay.
It's about using sound as a tool for transformation.
Right.
And this is just one example of how Vajrayana utilizes a wide range of skillful means to help practitioners progress on the path.
It sounds like Vajrayana is a very embodied path.
It is.
Working directly with the energy of the body and the power of sound.
Right.
It's quite different from the more contemplative approaches we've discussed in Theravada and Zen.
It is.
But like all Buddhist traditions, it ultimately aims to alleviate suffering and bring about enlightenment.
It's just that Vajrayana uses a more, shall we say, accelerated approach.
I'm getting the sense that Vajrayana is a path that requires a lot of guidance and commitment.
It does. It's not something you just dabble in.
Right.
It requires a deep understanding of the teachings and practices and a willingness to confront the depths of your own being.
Well, we've certainly taken a deep dive into the world of Vajrayana.
I
feel like I've learned so much.
Yeah.
But I also have a lot more questions.
That's the beauty of exploring Buddhism, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
There's always more to discover,
Okay.
more to learn, more to experience. And that's what makes it such a rich and rewarding path.
I couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
I'm ready for part 3.
All right, let's go.
All right, we're back for like the final part. Of our Buddhist deep dive.
Okay.
We've explored the history, the major branches, the like wild concepts and the practices.
Right.
But how do we actually live this stuff?
Right.
It's one thing to talk about enlightenment.
Yeah.
But how does that translate to dealing with like a traffic jam or a frustrating coworker?
That's the real test, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
The beauty of Buddhism is that it's not just a philosophy or a set of beliefs.
Yeah.
It's a path of practice.
Okay.
A way of engaging with life's challenges in a skillful and compassionate way.
Our sources talk a lot about how the Four Noble Truths are really a diagnosis and a prescription.
Right.
Like suffering exists, here's why.
Yeah.
Here's the good news that it can end.
Right.
And here's the path to get there.
Exactly.
And that path, the Eightfold Path, it isn't about becoming a monk and living in a cave.
Right.
Though that's certainly an option for some.
Right, for some, yeah.
It's about cultivating qualities like wisdom, ethical conduct, and mental discipline that we can apply in every aspect of our lives.
So it's like a toolkit.
It's a toolkit.
For navigating the ups and downs of everyday life.
I like that analogy.
Good.
And one of the most powerful tools in that toolkit is mindfulness.
Mindfulness, yeah.
We talked about it in the context of Theravada Buddhism.
Right.
But it's really relevant to all Buddhist traditions.
Oh, absolutely.
Right? Because mindfulness is about paying attention to the present moment without judgment.
Right.
It's about noticing our thoughts, feelings, and sensations as they arise without getting swept away by them.
Precisely.
It's like becoming an observer of our own minds.
Right.
Rather than being completely identified with every thought and emotion that pops up.
So instead of reacting automatically to things, we create a space for awareness.
Okay.
A pause where we can choose how to respond.
Exactly. And this can be incredibly helpful in dealing with, like, difficult situations.
Yeah.
Whether it's a stressful meeting at work.
Right.
Or a conflict with a loved one.
By practicing mindfulness, we develop the ability to observe our reactions without judgment.
Okay.
Which allows us to respond with greater wisdom and compassion.
It sounds so simple.
It does sound simple.
But I imagine it takes a lot of practice.
It does take practice.
And actually do that.
Yeah, especially when we're caught up in the heat of the moment.
Our sources mention different techniques for cultivating mindfulness.
Okay.
Like focusing on the breath.
The breath, yeah.
Paying attention to bodily sensations.
Right.
Or simply noticing the sounds around us. Is there a right way to practice?
Not really.
Okay.
The best way to practice is the way that works for you.
Okay.
Experiment with different techniques and see what resonates.
Okay.
The important thing is to find a practice that you can stick with.
Right.
Something that you can integrate into your daily life.
Because it's not just about sitting on a cushion for 20 minutes a day.
Right.
It's about bringing that mindful awareness into everything we do.
Absolutely.
Walking, eating, talking.
Yeah.
All of these activities can become opportunities to practice mindfulness.
It's about bringing our full attention to the present moment, no matter what we're doing.
That's a pretty radical idea.
That is.
When you think about it, to live life with that level of presence and awareness.
It is radical.
Yeah.
And it's not always easy.
Right.
But the rewards are immense.
Okay.
When we practice mindfulness, we cultivate a sense of peace, clarity, and connection that permeates every aspect of our lives.
So mindfulness is one key takeaway.
Right.
But it's not the whole picture.
It's not the whole picture, no.
The Eightfold Path encompasses a lot more than just mindfulness.
Absolutely.
Remember, it's about cultivating wisdom, ethical conduct, and mental discipline.
Right.
That includes things like right speech.
Right speech.
Which is about speaking truthfully.
Truthfully,
kindly and thoughtfully. And right action.
Right action.
Which is about acting in ways that are beneficial to ourselves and others.
So it's not just about...
So it's not just internal. It's about how we interact with the world around us.
Exactly. Buddhism is a path of both inner transformation and outer engagement.
Okay.
It's about cultivating a wise and compassionate heart.
Okay.
And then expressing that wisdom and compassion in our words and actions.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
But what about suffering?
Suffering.
I mean, it's kind of the starting point of Buddhism.
Yeah.
The recognition that life inevitably involves suffering.
Yeah.
But how does that actually help us live better lives?
Well, first of all, it's important to remember that Buddhism's view of suffering is actually quite nuanced.
Okay.
It's not about being pessimistic or denying the joys and pleasures of life.
Okay.
It's about recognizing that even in the midst of happiness, there's a fundamental unsatisfactoriness, a sense that things are always changing, always in flux.
So it's like even good things don't last forever.
Right.
And that can be a source of suffering.
Yeah.
If we're clinging to them.
Exactly. And the more we cling to things, the more we suffer when they inevitably change or disappear.
Okay.
This is where the Buddhist concept of non-attachment comes in.
Non-attachment.
It's not about becoming emotionless or indifferent to life, but about cultivating a sense of detachment from the things we crave and cling to.
So we can still enjoy things?
Yes.
But without getting so attached to them that their absence causes us pain.
Exactly. It's about finding a middle path between indulgence and aversion, between grasping and rejecting.
Okay.
And this is where mindfulness comes in again.
Mindfulness again,
By paying attention to the present moment, we can start to notice the subtle ways in which we cling to things, the ways in which we create suffering for ourselves through our own attachments.
It's like mindfulness gives us the ability to see our own patterns of behavior more clearly.
Right.
The ways in which we sabotage our own happiness.
Precisely. And once we see those patterns,
we
can start to change them.
Okay.
We can start to cultivate healthier, more skillful ways of relating to ourselves, to others, and to the world around us.
This is all starting to make a lot of sense.
Good.
But it also sounds like a lot of work.
It is work.
It's not just about reading a book or listening to a podcast.
No.
It's about actually putting these teachings into practice in our daily lives.
It is work, but it's also incredibly rewarding work.
Okay.
Because the more we practice, the more we cultivate these qualities of wisdom, compassion, and mindfulness, the more peace, joy, and freedom we experience in our lives.
I love that.
Yeah.
It's like Buddhism is not a destination.
Right.
It's a journey.
It's a journey,
A path of continuous growth and transformation.
Exactly. And the beauty of this path is that it's accessible to everyone.
To everyone,
You don't have to be a monk or a nun. You don't have to live in a monastery or wear special robes. You can practice these teachings in the midst of your everyday life, no matter what your circumstances may be.
So for our listeners who are intrigued by what they've heard, what's a good first step?
Good first step? Well,
how can they start to integrate these teachings into their own lives?
Well, there are many different paths you could take. You could start by reading some of the classic Buddhist texts, like the Dhammapada or the Heart Sutra. You could explore different meditation techniques, perhaps by finding a local meditation group or using a guided meditation app.
Or even just start by paying attention to the breath.
The breath. Yeah.
For a few minutes each day.
Yeah.
Bringing a little more mindfulness into your daily routine.
Exactly. The important thing is to find a practice that resonates with you.
Okay.
And to commit to it, even if it's just for a few minutes each day.
Okay.
Because even small steps can lead to profound transformation.
I think that's a beautiful message to end on.
Yeah.
Buddhism is not about becoming someone else.
Right.
It's about realizing our full potential.
Yeah.
Cultivating our innate wisdom and compassion. And living a life that's filled with meaning and purpose.
Beautifully said.
And remember, it's a journey, not a destination.
It is a journey.
Be patient with yourself.
Yeah.
Be kind to yourself.
And
enjoy the process of discovery.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much for sharing your insights with us today.
It's been a pleasure.
I feel like we've only just scratched the surface.
Yeah.
But it's been an incredible journey.
It has. It has.
And to our listeners,
I
encourage you to keep exploring, keep learning, and keep practicing. May your journey be filled with peace.
Peace.
Wisdom.
Wisdom.
And compassion.
Compassion.